Hi y'all, welcome to Charot Room with your queen Charotera, FaelnarTe.
And Angel Qinan.
And once again, we're joined by actually the owner of Miss Charlie Talk.
Miss J.
Yeah, hi Miss Jai.
Yeah, I was joking that I'm
Hi.
actually the guest this time around because this is your channel. If you guys didn't know, J Harley means Jan and Lee. So that's kind of like, this is their YouTube channel. We're just piggybacking our show on their YouTube channel. So thank you for having me as a guest.
Uh, well, at this point, you're more Charotera than Jen is, but Jen has been in a couple of our episodes already, and this time
I
since
know, and I missed it.
I know this is your first time with Jen, and then like we're missing both of my other babies.
Yeah, mga charotera sila.
Mga charotera
Chas.
sila. Okay, so Jen is also since she's my roommate as well, we hang out a lot with the Filipino group. So she's semi-honorary Filipino that doesn't understand a bit of Tagalog.
So I guess your room is a little bit soundproof from each other because there's no feedback going on.
That is correct.
That's why I don't hear her when she does her funky business.
When she has, and when you have, and uh,
And she has it all
Well,
the
yeah.
time. She literally does it all the time. Wait, is that joke transphobic?
I don't know, it might be.
Do you think that joke's transphobic?
I don't know. I think it's coming from you and your roommate, so it kind of would depend on the audience and who's talking and how it's being said. So maybe
Yeah.
not. I don't know. You want to repeat it?
I forgot because like I just like didn't spur of the moment, and then I was just more talking about like you said like the walls are soundproof, so like it's like impossible for us to hear it when we do the and the
Mm-hmm.
and the and I don't
And
think that's and I don't think that's transphobic at all. Have you all ever encountered somebody telling a joke and then like you heard it and like, oh my god, that F is so effing transphobic as F.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
I think it depends on who's saying it and how it's being said and what's the intention, I think, of the joke. So
Do you have any in mind, Angel?
I shared it on our previous episode, like just for example, like somebody saying, "Oh, this
Oh,
is Bella." It's kind of like that's very transphobic because it's used to kind of degrade the other person.
and also
Um,
out the other person.
and out, yeah, like out the other person, and so making fun of the transness of the person. So yes, I think that is very transphobic. I mean, in case you don't know, Miss Jen, that's we kind of spoke about like somebody calling me Mela just because they know that I'm trans, or they were clocking me as trans. And in Tagalog, may lawet means there's a
Something hanging.
hanging. So it's like saying you're tereha or something like that. Something like that. But it's like making a play of words or syllables to make it a name.
Yeah, and it's like
Gotcha.
saying jingle balls, jingle all the way.
Oh, I mean, it's yeah. I think that something like that, like Angel said, it's in the interpretation, it's in the delivery, and if the person delivering it is, I think a lot of times you can hear the intent in the word spoken. Like in comedy clubs, I hear terrible trans jokes all the
Yeah,
time.
well, comedy
And
clubs are like dominated by males. So
yeah,
even women, they're like sometimes they make fun a lot of women, like not just trans, but like anything other than them.
right.
So I've heard of actually some like stand-up comedy open mics that are specifically just for women, just because some of the women feel that also on like stand-up comedy in general, kind of.
Right.
So I feel a little bit out of place, so because I haven't done stand up at all, but I feel that I've been supporting you guys a lot. That I've had my fair share of hearing some transphobic jokes. So do you think it's
Yeah.
transphobic because the person that's saying it is not trans? Would that make it automatically transphobic to you? What do you think, Jen? What is your opinion on that?
I don't think so, because I've heard comedians do trans jokes that are actually very well crafted and very well meaning.
Hmm.
The ones that are transphobic is one I can give an example of is just a guy that his entire set, every single time he goes up, talks about. And I'm doing an impression because he just seems like an old Navy guy. That's just what he appears to be, like an 80-year-old Navy guy. I tell you, we went into shore and I found me a tranny, and then the whole thing is it's all tranny, and he doesn't stop using that word.
Mm.
And then he throws fat in on top of it as well, and that's his shtick, but he's also not a nice guy. So I actually, I think the intent behind his jokes are exactly to attack um, the
Trans people.
I
Wait,
do.
but then did you do a show with them, or were you just a spectator at that day?
Well, I've done shows with them. I did a an educational joke about being in the audience and hearing this triggering word, and and it's trannies this and trannies that, and I stood up to confront the comedian because I'd had enough of it, and then I realized they were talking about cars and transmissions, so I had to sit back down. And I started that joke off saying, we hear these words, they're triggering this, you shouldn't be saying them. After the show, I had one comedian actually talk to me about it, and he apologized for using it. That guy did not. In fact, that guy came up right after me and was tranny, 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 tranny,
Do
tranny.
you think he heard it?
Oh, he heard it. We had discussions at some other comedy clubs. He knows.
Hmm. But he doesn't
He
care.
knows. He doesn't
Well,
care.
I think the more sad thing about that is if he keeps using it, it means people are laughing.
Hmm.
And if people are laughing, then they kind of
Uh,
support that. It kind of means they're supporting that joke, or they're supporting whatever he's saying or his sentiments about whatever the joke is about. And that's, I think, a challenge for us because we live in a culture that some people still think we're a joke.
Oh my God, yeah. So like I was on Instagram one time and I was like scrolling, and then normally I try to follow uh since I'm single, sorry, I get easily attached to like people, or I easily follow people who do thirst traps from time to time, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me follow. But then for the most part I try to like get past the thirst trap and just
Mm-hmm.
like see if they're like nice people and stuff. And for the most part, this person that is following feels like he's supportive of the LGBTQ community, more probably the gay community, to
Mm-hmm.
be specific. But then one time I saw a reel that like one on his reels on Instagram, he was like telling this joke, and I thought it was going to be a good joke. He was like, um I was trying to get a massage. I was in Thailand, so I went to like a Thai spa, and I was getting this massage from this lady, and I was like trying to make myself decent and not feel bad, and I was like thinking to myself like, don't get an erection, don't get an erection, don't get an erection. And then she did. And then like when I heard that, I was like, wait, should I laugh or should I get offended? Like my that was like initially what like came to my mind. I'm like, is he saying this without like, I thought he was a supporter of LGBTQ, and then like where like That sounds so freaking transphobic to me. I'm like, what do you feel if you like heard like would you think that's transphobic or it's just me being sensitive?
For me, when I heard it, it seemed a bit transphobic. I don't, my immediate response wasn't a chuckle. It wasn't really a laugh or anything. It was like, oh, that was your punchline. I was disappointed in it. Was my reaction.
Cause like initially like my thing like was my initial thinking was like, so you're saying trans people think you're fucking attractive? That's so narcissistic, man. That's my first like that's my first thing that came to my mind. I'm like I just like threw shade right away. I'm like, what are you saying? Like you're that attractive? Like a trans person would find you freaking attractive? You're so full of it.
Yeah, I guess the problem there is the setup is I'm not attracted to them, and
Yeah.
that they were attracted to me. So it's like, it's yeah. If I would be in the room and I would hear it in the room, if it's live and everybody surrounding me would start laughing, I would get scared for my life.
Oh my god.
I won't laugh. I'll be scared. I'll be like leaving the room probably, So it kind of is a hard. I don't know. I mean, if I'm going to be around trans people while watching it, I mean, if some people laugh, then yeah.
It's yeah, you know what? Like, see, so it is transphobic because like all of us are like I cringed. I literally cringed like thinking of that freaking joke. I was just like, oh my god, this joke is like, and I'm like, how do you educate somebody? Like, is there any way of tweaking the joke? Like, you both are comedians. You both do stand up. Miss Jen more like more often than Angel. But is there any way to tweak this joke to make it not transphobic, or do they just have to quit telling this joke altogether?
For me, I don't think that there's a tweak to it because the point and the subject of his joke is a
The
trans person
surprise.
and their genitalia, and like that's I don't think that there's a way to tweak that. I looked at it and tried to figure out a way, and I couldn't.
It literally brought me back to the time when Hangover
Hmm.
came out because it felt like a joke that came from Hangover, and Hangover has a lot of problematic jokes if you like listen to it. I forgot.
But there's some trans women that are proud of having their penis and having
Oh
hard-ons. So
yeah,
if they're the ones who would tell the joke, how would you feel about that? Let's say I was massaging this guy and I kept thinking, that he should get a hard-on or she should not get a hard-on, whatever. But it ended up being me.
oh no,
I
that's
mean, how would you feel about that if it's a trans person saying it? I mean, it's kind of the same joke. Um, it's coming from obviously whoever will say that will be somebody who's comfortable saying
like
or
yeah,
disclosing that they have
and
not
that
done the bottom surgery or
and
will
they're
not
okay
have the
with
bottom
it.
surgery and they're okay with it versus it's coming from the other person talking about the
Yeah,
girl or
yeah,
or GNC, who knows.
yeah. I think that for me, I think that's empowering. I like hearing that it's empowering because we've been off.
But I mean, does it mean we feel transphobic because it's triggering to us, or it's like, do you think she would find it funny? Whoever
So,
is proud of having it, I don't know. It's kind of like I'm just like playing devil's
Would
advocate right
but
now. I mean,
would you feel would you think that that's transphobic coming from her though?
no, because that's her story.
Yeah, that's like yeah. And I wouldn't even be. I think that for me that would be empowering. So do you think that's Jen? Or you're quiet.
yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, so yeah, on that, I think a trans person or a non-conforming person telling that joke, perfectly fine. I would be in the audience. I would laugh at that. Like,
So how would the other part of the story be
so
totally completely different? It's because of the intent. It's because of what it brings and what it kind of encourages. I think other people. I think that if they're gonna laugh about the joke and look down on the person who's giving the massage, then I think that's where it becomes a problem. I think. I mean, again, it kind of depends on what it brings, like what it teaches the other people. I think it's. So maybe it's not the joke itself. It's I don't know. I'm just like.
But yeah, for me, I mean, honestly, the thing that changes it is the perspective of the joke and the fact that it comes from a trans person. So the trans woman is telling the joke, like, yeah, I was giving this Thai massage to this guy the other day, and the whole time I was like, oh God, please don't get turned on, don't get a hard on, don't get a hard on, and then I did. And to me, that really would be a hilarious joke coming from a trans comedian, and flipping the narrative is the way that I would like that, because it's basically like, you can't make fun of me because I'm actually embracing this, and I've taken your power away because I'm like, I'm owning the fact that I haven't had bottom surgery. I got an erection. What else can you do to make fun of me? And you can't. So the power is all mine in that situation. That's my interpretation.
Something to think about, but yes, my first thing is, what's the intent? And it sounds like it's not good. But because I maybe when I did like some of my stand-up sketch, it's like I've been using the voice, kind of like talking lower and higher, but it's like owning it. But it has been a butt of all jokes before too, like, and I actually thought about that because one time I was on a shoot, and the scene was this guy was gonna approach us, like kind of flirt with us, like me and this other girl. And when I started speaking, he was like, oh, deep voice to the other person, because it was kind of like an improv scene. And I got shy and I got nervous, and oh my God, I'm clogged and I'm like not safe. I want to like just leave, So after that shoot, I actually, after leaving, I'm like, I have to think of a way to like be more empowered when that situation comes, that maybe next time I will be like, so what? Kind of. But I wasn't quick enough and I wasn't comfortable enough to say that at that time. So, yeah, that's my optimistic view on jokes that are transphobic.
Do you have anything to add, Jen? Do you have any?
I mean, not really. I mean, again, the guy, when he told the joke, I think it's transphobic for us to tell the joke. I don't think it's transphobic.
Do you have any other jokes to add?
I do, actually. The last set that I did just before everyone went into lockdown was, again, embracing the fact that I'm trans, and there are things different about me than others. And I was like, I said, people always want to ask us about, the surgery. I said, so I'm just going to come clean. Like, yeah, I'm having the surgery later, like the big one. It's my nose. Because let's face it, I'm 54. I've been on hormones for 7 years. My nose is actually the biggest problem on my body to take care of.
Tell that to Barbara Streisand.
Oh, don't ever fix that nose, Babs.
I know. Tell that.
How do audiences react to that? Have you seen a big difference depending on who's watching? If it's in an LGBTQ or like trans audience versus you're doing it in a room full of guys.
Right. So when I told that joke, it was a fundraiser for homeless LGBTQ youth. So automatically the people coming to that are more open-minded than, say, well, I won't say the comedy place's name, but at a comedy club, they're going to be more open. However, the trainees and car transmissions one that I told was at a regular comedy club, and everyone in the room ate it up. So it's and every room can be different.
Yeah.
Even in the same place, one night it kills, and the next night
Yeah.
it bombs. So, but I think I get good reception though.
Well, I think it's very funny because it's like very misleading at the beginning, because I think it actually again serves a purpose of saying that, look, we're not all about the bottom surgery. There's a lot of other stuff we wanna think about too, and it's not just that.
Exactly.
And in this case, the biggest thing is
One nose.
But is it really?
Yeah, it really is. Well, my ears, that could be the other.
Okay, so are you telling me that your nose is bigger than... I'm kidding! I'm just like... I'm super shady, y'all.
Remember, like, Caitlyn Jenner was the butt of jokes before.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you have a joke, Jen?
I do actually. There was one that Ricky Gervais did at the Golden Globes a few years back, and he caught a lot of heat for it.
Uh-huh.
So he's introduced, and he comes out, and he's like, I think relax. I'm gonna be nice tonight. I've changed, not as much as Bruce Jenner, but obviously, Caitlyn Jenner, what a year she's had, becoming a role model for trans people everywhere, bravely breaking down barriers and destroying stereotypes. She didn't do a whole lot of, for women, but for women drivers, but so that was his joke, and he caught a lot of heat for that joke, or that roast, I should say.
What would you feel? I mean, do you think... I mean, I'm not a big fan of Caitlyn, but if Caitlyn was there...
And Caitlyn was there.
Yeah, I know, but if I were Caitlyn and I was there hearing that, I have...
Did they show Caitlyn's reactions?
Caitlin's reaction was like a...
okay.
kind of like I get you.
Was that a good roast though? Like, if you were to roast somebody, because like I love roasting. I'm like I love throwing shade.
What would you call it? Throwing shade or roasting, or just like a joke? I mean, it's
to me, it's a partial roast. Because if it's a roast, it gets ugly and nasty, and the entire point of a roast is to offend and degrade and humiliate the person.
Yeah,
so this is part of a roast.
And this was what year was this said?
2016.
2016.
When he hosted this one.
I've heard roasts that are kind of degrading, but still funny. It's like, I mean, I watched it a lot in RuPaul's Drag Race when they do roasting, like when they roasted
but again, I think it depends on who's saying it and who they're saying it to. I mean, they're kind of from the same family, like let's say it's like you have to be close to somebody to roast each other almost.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But I guess as far as this joke, I think first of all, it's the big thing on that year. When Caitlyn Jenner came out, it was the big thing. Yes. I mean, yes, they called her by the dead name also on that joke, and I mean, some people get triggered with that, but it's kind of like also maybe informing people maybe who doesn't know about who Caitlyn is or Bruce. I don't know. And the ending part of the joke is actually saying that she's a woman, even though kind of it's talking about like her accident when she got
when I heard this, I laughed at the joke.
I think it was smartly
thought that
made.
It was funny.
I think it was very smartly made.
Yeah, I thought that it was actually a very clever joke.
As far as a roast, it does sound like a good roast, don't you think? I mean,
yeah. So you don't think it's transphobic?
I didn't view it as transphobic. A lot of the heat that he got from this actually was, I think that they were referring to the fact that he dead named Caitlyn using Bruce. I think that was where the outrage came from.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's where I might cringe. That's
Yeah,
where I
Mm-hmm.
might cringe as the person being roasted. You know, 'cause
yeah.
like
Well, I don't have a problem with that because my dad name is the same as my. I'm teasing.
well,
I'm teasing,
lucky you aren't
but I
lucky.
did say that also earlier that I think the main thing is like calling the dead name, but I don't know if the purpose really is just so you can contrast right away, you know, and she's a public figure, so everybody knows
Right.
her dead name. But I do know like some famous
I
that
was
they
going
still
to
get
ask you
triggered.
that. I was going to ask you
Yeah,
that.
that they still get triggered before, but I think, I mean, part of, yeah. Yeah, so
I I, I think part of why I mean, again, I thought it was a smart joke, but I didn't really take offense even at the dead name. Was, as a little kid, they were my hero because I was not athletic. I was not at all good at sports, and here Jenner wins the triathlon, like
mhm.
sweeps the triathlon, and so I'm like, oh my gosh. So then for me to come up age and transition, and then 2 years after I come out, they come out, and I'm kind of like, so for me, I was like, yes, the name was used, but I don't know, I wish I knew Ricky Gervais's intent in using that
Yeah.
name, but I think it was a comparison and contrast use of the name.
And
But
don't
everybody knows her, so it's not like
yeah,
you're outing her. It's not like, you know, you're the main thing I think there is Caitlyn. I mean, did she get offended or not? I mean, because it's her who would be called Bruce, you know, or
Right.
at that time. So it's, yeah, the main thing, it's her. It's her comfortability. I don't know if it was insensitive because she just came out. But if they showed a clip that's like that, you know, then maybe that was, I don't know if that's pre-recorded or it's really her reaction to the joke. So yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
and
kind of at least maybe have a conversation with Caitlyn and ask her if this is fine to say. I don't know.
yeah,
That's
that's what I
probably
was
my
like.
two
Yeah.
cents
Yeah,
if I were
that's
to
what
do
I was
that.
like thinking. Like before you can do jokes on the Golden Globe, is it not supposed to be approved by the person that you're going to? Are they like going to be completely blindsided? Because I know before sometimes when like you go on interviews and stuff, like the questions for the most part, you already kind of know that they're going to ask you that, so that you can say like, "Oh, I don't want to be asked this question," or "I don't want to be asked this question."
Right.
And for the most part, like not all the time, because
I'm
sometimes
coming from somebody who's already been to the Golden Globes. No, they didn't. No, just kidding. I've never been there, so I don't really know
yeah, that's what I don't
if there's
know. I don't
limitations for
know.
that. I mean,
I don't
I
know.
don't
So
know.
yeah, I don't know. So if she actually like if Caitlyn was already aware,
Maybe
then
they made her aware. That's why they were able to get her reaction like that. Who knows?
or
You
maybe
know,
Caitlyn really
let me
just didn't
call.
care.
Hello, Caitlin. Hi, how are you?
So like, what would if you guys had like a message to like comedians and stuff, like to touch like trans jokes and whatnot? Do you have like any comedians that you think do them right, or are cis like people allowed to do trans jokes?
There's a comedian named Jim Norton who's actually transamorous. In the past, his sets always included trans jokes. Um, Not disrespectful, really more around his encounters. So it just so happens his encounters were with trans women. He said that he would be telling the same jokes if it had been with somebody else. He said now it's much more of a fact of it's more honesty in his jokes than it was, say, 7 years ago, with his jokes. Because the trans community does have more of a voice now and more of a recognition. So now he's like, no, I like trans women, and that's his thing. He's like, he didn't want to. He was afraid that when he went honest with these in his stand-up sets, he would lose the funny. And he said he didn't. He goes, because again, the jokes are about his clumsiness and his inability to have sex with anyone, even himself. And he's like, he goes, I masturbate and I screw that up too. So it's one of those things where like he does, he's very open about it on podcasts and interviews and everything.
So if it's him, who would say the first joke that we mentioned earlier?
Oh, the one
about I want to be respectful to this girl, and then I hope I don't get hard on, and then he's gonna end it with like, then she got the hard on, So it's kind of like, would that be transphobic then, if it's coming from a trans amorous person?
That's a hard question.
That is, I think it would. I almost think that it would depend on where it fell in the set. If that was your opening joke to the set, it would be a little rough. Although you could use the rest of your set to explain,
recover from it.
Yeah, exactly. To explain, no. I love and respect, and this is who I date. If it were to come in the middle, like after he'd already introduced the fact that he was trans amorous and had a trans girlfriend, then
the joke is kind of lost because the surprise is not there anymore.
Yeah, I mean it's rough. It's
because the challenge with some of the jokes is this element of surprise is part of it.
Unless he does this whole trans amorous thing in the beginning, does other jokes, and then this is a callback,
and then then bring it back there.
Yeah,
so that might work too. Speaking from like experts that I'm just gonna
I literally
totally not. I'm just like
no, you literally was just like, oh my god. I think it would still, I don't know, because I don't know the person, so I have no idea. But then,
if the intent is to actually be, spread the news that there are people that are trans amorous, and that a reaction to that incident is positive because like, oh, then he got a hard on, so let's get him on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then, that kind of is empowering already. It might still be triggering for some, trans women. So the hard thing about some of the comedy and jokes is somebody will be triggered at some point, maybe.
This is a serious question. We don't have to answer it now because we're almost running out of time. But then, is that similar to casting or like a cis person writing something that has a trans person with it without like consulting them? Or
it's like, almost like that. So again, I guess
is it similar? Because like I know like a lot of people are getting heat if they got casted as a trans role, even though if it's pre-transition, you know what I mean? Or should we just talk about this in another day? Because we're almost running out of time.
Something to think about.
Yes.
And okay, so something to think about. Like, yeah, we can talk about this another time then. But
yes.
Any jokes that you want to leave with our people that are watching? If you made it this far, that's not a joke.
I don't know. What about you, Miss Angel?
Well, the one I always like, you've heard of this, like when I was newly in transition, I knew that I have to like kind of modulate my voice. So Lee, my trans mom, was very nice. So she told me to speak higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. it, and then I went back to my regular speaking voice.
Yeah, you need to
That's
sound
one
like
of
a
my
cheerleader or a dolphin.
yeah, like
Gosh, I don't know. I guess the other one I would, that I would tell is, and this is in every single one of my sets. So if you ever come and see me now, whoever is watching this, you're going to hear this joke at the top of my set because it introduces and breaks the ice, for me, and I think I can gauge the audience by it, and that is, I'm here. I know that you can look at me and you can hear me, and there's something little bit different here. And, if I have to be perfectly honest, I want to get it out of the way. I'm from Indiana. And it's just one of those things where I like, because it leads it, because they can tell the voice is deep and that, but I'm just like, yeah, I'm from Indiana. And if it gets,
and I normally sometimes I heard you a version of you saying like I am a transplant from Indiana.
yeah, actually that was what I evolved it into, is like, I'm a very proud trans plant from Indiana. So yeah, because what I just said was my first version of that joke.
I love that. You know what? That's one of the first few conversations we ever had, Miss Jen, when I first met you long time ago. I remember like when we were eating here. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I still makes me chuckle and laugh. I love it.
Well, thank you, Angel, for being a guest. No, I'm kidding.
At MissJharlee Talks.
And thank you, Jen, for being a guest at Charot Room.
Yes.
And thank you, Lee, for being the queen mother of both the channel and the show. And the trans mom.
I know, right? Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. Charot.
Charot. Bye.
Bye.